WMT.
10:40 on the mid-morning show. Glad to have you along with us. 600 WMT. Our studios, if you've ever been by the building, are right next to Collins Aerospace. And from time to time, we call on our neighbors, say, come over, let's chat. And we've got, of course, a cool project I told you about last hour. A Collins radio documentary has been chosen for the Cedar Rapids Independent Film Festival. And Annette Busbee with me from the Arthur A. Collins Legacy Association. How are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited about what we're about to talk about here. And sitting next to you, Eric Frazee from Wired Productions. How are you, sir?
I am good, sir. How are you?
I'm good. Glad to have you guys here. Rockwell Collins, and let's go way before even Rockwell Collins, Rockwell Radio. And, excuse me, Collins Radio.
Collins Radio.
Then became
yes.
Rock. There's a whole family history. A little bit about Collins Radio. Obviously, a huge employer in Cedar Rapids. I mean, really put this town on the map. There's a lot of pieces in this building and next door in the building that are part of Collins Radio. That put the first TV station and obviously this radio station on the air. But we're thinking bigger here, Annette, because what we're about to talk about is Collins Radio in space. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yes. So Collins Radio and the founder, Arthur Collins, were actually pioneers in space communication. So back beginning in the late 1940s, they were doing research, bouncing signals off the moon back to Earth. And so when it came time for the NASA space program in the 1960s, Collins Radio was selected to help design and develop the communications equipment for Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo.
Wow.
So basically the folks who were on that team at Collins Radio supplied the communication equipment and systems so that every Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo astronaut's voice from space was heard through their equipment.
That's. I mean, not many people probably know this story.
That's true. A lot of people, even who have lived here in Cedar Rapids for a long time, are not aware of the story. So the Arthur Collins Foundation Association, thought that this was a perfect time with the anniversary of the moon landing coming up to tell this story. And we've had wonderful feedback to it. And Eric and the Wired Production Group took all the elements that we gathered, video recording interviews, 16 millimeter archival videos, still images, and just masterfully put them together.
Now, Eric, the question goes to you. How do you take all this? Because you were like, what, truckloads of film and truckloads of, literally truckloads of resources that you can coalesce and put together to tell a story.
Right. Well, and Wired originally got involved in it because we were recording interviews with some of the Collins retirees who had stories of Apollo, and then as they decided to do the documentaries, we were brought in for that. But they had literally a pickup load worth of old film from the Collins archives. A lot of that has been digitized, and I've been working through that. And it's hundreds and hundreds of minutes of archival Apollo stuff, Collins marketing videos, just all sorts of interesting things. And it's kind of taking the best of those materials along with the story that Annette has crafted, and trying to give people a good picture of what was going on in the late 60s in Collins.
Annette, when you talked to the former employees, was this stuff that was classified? Here it is, they're building stuff, because there was a space race going on. Of course, you think back in the 60s, the Russians versus the Americans wanted to get to the moon first. Was this stuff that, all right, we do it in little Cedar Rapids, Iowa, nobody's going to think what's going on, we bring the pieces then here to the launch pad, or how did that all happen?
Well, much of the material that we found and that through the interviews didn't appear to be classified at all. We were involved in a huge space race with the Soviet Union. Plus, we were under a time deadline because President Kennedy in the early 60s had said, let's put a man on the moon by the end of the decade. So the clock was literally ticking. But yes, they worked closely with NASA. They talked about all the long hours that they put in on this program, and we have stories Jim Westcott, the Apollo program administrator, shared, sometimes we just slept under tables at night because then we had early morning meetings the next morning. And so they put in lots and lots of hours, and they part of their stories was also that they felt a huge responsibility. They felt a lot of pressure. The communication system had to work. That was the astronauts' only link back to Earth.
Yes, some of the astronauts even in speaking to Collins employees had said, I'm depending on you to make sure that I come back home, and it was kind of a little bit of pressure there. Well,
and the First Man that just came out, that movie this last year, it tells, a different side of that lunar race story, but, very important. The numbers, the communications, and I think you kind of take that for granted. Oh, yeah, if there's no way to call home, there's no way to get home. And that's on the shoulders of how many engineers that call, across the road from us home back in that time frame. That's just got to be fascinating to uncover that, and I want to talk about the genesis of putting this together, but from the association, the Legacy Association standpoint, Annette, what's it like to be able to finally tell this story and tell more people about, here's what happened, it's not just airplanes, look what happened way back in the 60s here?
Well, I think they're extremely proud because it's part of our history here, not only in Cedar Rapids, but it's an important part of our country's history. So they're, I think, extremely proud to be able to bring this story to light. As we talked about, it's not one that many people are aware of, and we have the historical archives to help tell it.
And now, Eric, this is going to be a 3-part series. Obviously, we're talking about the moon, going to the moon. We had mentioned off the air, Apollo 13. You think of the Tom Hanks movie. Everybody's seen that. Now we're learning more about First Man and the actual moon landing. What are we going to see? And how can we see this, too, of everything you guys over there at Wired Productions are putting together?
Sure. Well, the showing, I don't have the timing for it yet, but it is going to be shown at the Cedar Rapids Independent Film Festival. And generally they do 2 screenings. I don't recall the date off the top of my head, unfortunately.
So you talk, I'll Google it real quick. We'll find that.
But what they'll be seeing is the genesis of the Apollo program, essentially, as Annette mentioned, the JFK calling for the man on the moon by the end of the decade, and we kind of go from that period through Apollo 8, which was the first Apollo mission to leave the Earth's grasp, so to speak. They orbited the moon, and they did some special broadcasts from there, and so this particular episode of the documentary series covers that time period.
Well, and unless we remember, there was an Apollo mission too, trying to get this, where 3 astronauts lost their lives too. So you're talking about an infantile technology that nobody quite knew, what was capable. But it's just so fascinating to kind of put your mind in that time frame back there. We could never possibly get these 3 guys back if we didn't have what Collins Radio did.
That's very true, and I think Apollo 1, was a terrible tragedy, and I think it also brought to light the dangers that were involved in this Apollo program, and it also, it was new technology. The folks at Collins Radio had to think beyond the technology available in the 1960s to create a system that would communicate to the moon and back. So yes, that a lot of that was all new technology and had not been tried before, and it was somewhat of a miracle that it happened.
What's your hope as obviously this will air, and they don't have the film festival schedule up, so we'll be in touch. We'll keep in touch on that. The website is crifm.org, and we'll have Bruce Taylor keep us in the loop there too. But as you think about this, and you think about the technology in Apollo, and you come out with this series, is the hope to have it, kind of broadcast widely, like on Amazon.com or a Netflix, or it's going to be on a website where if people can't make it to the film festival, they can access it, or what's the hope?
Well, it is available on DVD currently from the association.
Okay.
As far as any other broadcast, nothing has been determined at this point.
Gotcha. Just think about, James Tiberius Kirk down in Riverside. And now you got way back in the 1960s, Arthur Collins and Collins Radio.
That's
kind of
right.
tells the complete story now. So, Annette, where can people go to learn more about the Arthur A. Collins Legacy Association?
They could go to arthurcollins.org website, And they can learn more about the project there and also order a DVD if they'd like. But we'd also love to have them come out to the film festival and see the film as well if they can.
Absolutely, absolutely, and we'll keep a close eye to that. Eric, where can people find out when you're not having your head in the clouds working on Apollo projects? What are you up to? What are you doing?
Well, we do a lot of different marketing types of things, videos and event planning, and event video, and streaming, and all that sort of stuff at Wired Production Group.
This is such a neat project. I can't wait to. I want to get tickets to go see this, because this is. Being a space nerd and being one of those guys who really got into the space race and Apollo, this is something that I, at 34 years old, find fascinating. Not to mention how many people who grew up here in Cedar Rapids, not knowing it was going on just down the road here in the 60s, will find fascinating as well. So, thank you guys for coming in. This is really cool. I wish we could do a whole hour on this, because I got like 97 more questions I want to ask about it. Annette Busbee and Eric Freese, thank you guys for coming in. Nicole, your official photographer, thanks for coming in as well. We're going to take a break. We'll put a link to the information about the Collins story, connecting the moon to the Earth, and information on that film festival at our website, WMTradio.com. Stay with us. We'll wrap this one up after this.